Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the VK Bros, also known as the podcast formerly known as the Audio Podcast, episode 100. We're just going to keep going with episode 100, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Keep on. Yeah.
So this is the new branding we're talking about. Because as we had previously discussed, the Audio Podcast was about essentially the motor trade.
It was about two guys who had just recently left the motor trade.
And to go in completely different life directions. So I had done a decade in the motor trade. You were going on 17 years at the time. You left the motor trade to start your own business because we are powered by Auto Bros, used vehicle wholesale. And I went off to start a family. And I've had 2 kids during that period of time. So, we decided to rebrand because at the end of the day, what this podcast has evolved into is this is us.
Yeah.
This is you and me about as genuine as we can get.
Yeah.
We talk about a whole range of topics. Nothing's off the table as far as we're concerned. We want to be as honest as we possibly can. We make mistakes. We will tell you guys some things that you never even knew about that maybe you can go and do your own research on. And this I think is you and me broadcasting from the moon is a pretty accurate depiction of what this has turned into.
And thanks to Georgie from Sweet House Studios for the design because we love it.
Yeah.
It was we made some minor changes to her original design, but like when I saw it, and I just gave her no brief.
Yeah.
Like no brief. I think she'd watched some of the podcasts and then and that's what she came up with.
Yep. A couple of space cadets.
I think it's so cool.
I do know that in your original brief that you gave her though, because she's your friend.
Yeah.
That the original photo of me, you chose a fat one. And I looked like a potato.
Her words were, he doesn't look fat in this one. No, she said he looks just as fat in this one. But the problem was something that she didn't notice, that on the original one, there was a different photo of Jason.
Yeah.
And the ear, this is for YouTube viewers, the ear, somehow the colour bled all the way down, so it looked like he had elephantitis of the ear.
Yeah, which I don't.
It looked like an African tribesman.
Yeah.
But yeah, we love it. We love it.
We're really happy with it. So
and look, we said in the previous episode, the RDO part was very, very car industry specific.
Yeah.
And we realised that we've somewhat evolved from that now, and we've definitely changed. So we thought a rebrand at episode 100 was poetic.
Yeah, and the ironic thing is that RDOs are obviously, like you said last week, a very important part of the motor trade. And since we've moved on to do different things, we don't get any days off. Because now you run your own business, and I'm either at work and I've got the kids. So we had to remove the RDO part because we don't get them.
That's true.
All right. There's a lot of things that we want to speak about today. A lot of bits and bobs happening around the world, which people should be paying attention to. Did you have anything particular that you wanted to kick off with, Alex? I should probably ask you, how's your week, dude?
It was a bit of a blur because obviously in a financial year, which is not that hard. You just got to tie up all your loose ends before you finish. So that's pretty easy. Pretty quiet on the customer front. I've got a shed full of cars. I had a celebratory cigar with the guys on, what was the 30th? Thursday,
yep.
And a bit of a funny story because I went and bought a new jet lighter. And as you can tell, when you unclick it, it doesn't stop straight away. And I had lit my cigar and then put it to my face and then basically singed hairs on my beard.
Yeah, so for those of you not watching on YouTube,
you can hear the click. You can hear the click. So click on, click off.
And then obviously had the cigar in the same hand as the jet lighter and put it up to your face.
Yeah.
Smoking novices right here.
I don't have many cigars, so...
No, we don't smoke durries or anything like that, but we do enjoy the occasional celebratory cigar.
I will have a cigar to commemorate special occasions or if I'm on a boat.
Actually, that reminds me, we need to smoke cigars to celebrate the birth of my second son. Because we didn't do that this time around. So, something worth doing. Anything else to report from this week?
Nah.
Not really?
Nah.
Cool.
No.
My week's been pretty standard. Bit of work, bit of kid stuff. It's funny, I was talking to Amanda last night. So Nate's at a really good age now where his language is just exploding. Like you've heard him when you like FaceTime him and stuff. Yep. He's speaking so much. It's actually really scary because it's funny the things that they parrot back to you straight away. It's always the stuff that you wouldn't expect. Right. Everyone just expects it's always going to be the swear words and stuff like that. It's not always.
Yeah.
it can be the dumbest phrases, but out of an entire sentence that you've just said, he'll pick the one thing that just doesn't make any sense to anyone.
Can you give an example?
I actually really can't. There's been so many of them this week. But anyway, Amanda was talking to her sister once because Nate's at an age now too where I think I've explained before, there's a bit of like rejection games going on between the parents.
Yeah.
And he's super jealous of Jake because Jake's always with Amanda, and bedtimes are a little bit gnarly at the moment because Amanda will be trying to take Jake away to do a nighttime feed, get him ready for bed, put him down at sort of 6 o'clock, and we're currently trying to remove Nate's midday nap. So he's about the age now where they start to drop the midday nap.
Yep.
Which means...
Until it circles back around, and then you start taking...
Yeah, when you're 36 years old, and you can start taking them again when you run your own business.
2 o'clock.
So, I've got to stop saying that.
Yeah.
Around 6 p.m. at night is witching hour now, because he hasn't had his midday nap, therefore he's a little bit overtired at that point. And then you mix overtiredness with jealousy of his brother getting his mum's attention, and it can cause some fireworks. So we're talking to... we had Amanda's sister over at one point, and Amanda plays this game every night as if there's going to be a different result, where she says to Nate, "Hey Nate, who do you want to come and read books with you? Mummy or Daddy?" Thinking he's going to pick me.
Right.
He never picks me. Mummy.
Well, you also need to say it, and like that's not selling.
Yeah, I know, but like, don't educate her, because it works for me. Because I love my kids. Like, anyone who follows me on social media knows how much I love my kids.
Who would you like to come read books with you? Mummy or Daddy?
Yeah, Mummy or Daddy. Well, yeah, you could do those sorts of things.
Yeah,
Might pick up on that. Kids are relatively easy to manipulate, but I love my kids, and I love spending time with them. We can get to that too. But one thing I also really enjoy is time in front of the TV with no kids.
Oh, for sure.
That's the best. You don't get much of it, so it's great.
I get heaps of it.
Yeah, I know you will.
And I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's glorious.
Yeah, it's the simple things in life that you do take for granted sometimes.
And then, do you know what? When like everything's really boring and you just go, do you know what? I'm really warm and cozy here and uninterrupted.
I'm just going to fall asleep.
I'm just going to have a nap.
So anyway, Amanda does this thing every single night thinking that Nate's going to make a different choice. And then all of a sudden, Amanda has to go and put Jake to sleep and put Nate to sleep. So I'm getting like an hour and a half to 2 hours all by myself on the couch.
Yeah, that won't last.
No.
The pendulum has to swing the other way.
It absolutely will. And it sort of went the other way while Amanda was pregnant, and Nate was perfectly happy for me to put him to sleep. I think I said it before, it was like for 4 or 5 months from 4 or 5 months from the end of her pregnancy, it was pretty much me every night.
Yeah.
So it definitely swung my direction, but it's because now there's 2 kids that both want her. It swung hard the other way. Jake's actually way better sleeper than Nate too, so he's really easy to put to bed. So I can actually put him down, but if he needs a big feed before bed, not equipped.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's been interesting this week. But apart from the family stuff, there's been a few interesting things happening around the traps.
Right.
And we got to get straight into some of the more red pill side of the argument, because it is episode 100 and the first episode of the VK Bros. You'll notice that we've dropped podcasts, we've dropped show, because the VK Bros is going to evolve over time, and it's going to become whatever it becomes.
Yeah.
So if you want to think about the show, just think about, let's go and watch the VK Bros. Let's listen to the VK Bros. Because there aren't many VK Bros around.
Yeah.
So that'll give you a bit of a guide. But I caught a news story during the week, which was a perfect example, in my opinion, of how governmental corruption uses corruption to cover up more corruption.
Oh, I know what you're going to talk about. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Have a guess.
Is it the Labor government's doing a review on the vaccine rollout?
Yes.
And they've headed up the team with the person that was working for that organisation, or not organisation, but that department.
It gets worse, bro. So what Alex is speaking to about, he's exactly right. He's picked it and won. The federal Labor government has announced that they are going to be doing an inquiry into the COVID vaccination rollout and the entire program that the former government took care of. at face value, that looks like a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that Albanese said in the lead up was he was railing at ScoMo with all of his secrecy and lack of transparency. And there was also the criticism, you remember, about how
Supply.
supply didn't secure vaccine supply early enough.
And Kevin Rudd had taken, so former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd had taken, he thinks he secured.
Yeah, well, you never know. Maybe he's got connections in Big Pharma to get those deals done.
Yeah.
Who knows? But anyway, so the review sounds
He does
really
speak
good.
fluent Chinese.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Just a little tidbit there. The review looks like a good thing to do. But the big thing the glaring thing that stood out to me was the person they've chosen to head up the review is a lady named Jane Holton. I think she's a professor, Professor Jane Holton. And why that is glaring is because she was... Let me give you a bit of Jane Holton's job history, but it's not even job history, it's also relationships and connections.
Okay.
So one of the things about government that is coming out more and more throughout this entire thing is how inbred the whole thing is. It's like the royal family.
Yeah.
They're all married, they're all siblings, they're all... So one of the big things out of the previous federal government was obviously there was Scott Morrison. His brother was the head of APRA. And everyone was talking about how APRA, the Australian Health Regulation, whatever it's called, they're the ones who regulate doctors. So everyone knew about how APRA was putting the pressure on doctors not to speak against vaccination. And then lo and behold, it's headed up by ScoMo's brother. So there was that inbreeding element. But Jane Holton is particularly interesting because she's been... Just to clarify, she has been selected to head up the inquiry into Australia's COVID vaccine rollout and response. Jane Holton was also on the... Where is it? I'll have it here. I just want to get the name right. Okay. She was put in so this is from the 25th March 2020, the announcement of the National COVID-19 Coordination Commission, the NCCC is what they called it. So the NCCC Executive Board comprises of leaders across the private and not-for-profit sectors, and it's got a bunch of people, Mr. David Thodey, who's the Deputy Chair, Greg Combert, and Ms. Jane Holton. So in other words, she's literally the person who was involved in the whole rollout in the first place, has now been tasked with independently checking her own work.
Yeah, that's wild. But even...
It gets more wild than that.
Just to put a little bit of a bracket on that, even the media knows that that's bullshit.
Have you seen anything of anyone questioning it? In the
media?
They're
Okay. Saying... the quote I think I saw was a committee with no teeth and no incentive to find anything wrong.
Well, yeah, that is interesting because one of the quotes that I saw in an article about her appointment was her literally saying, I want to look to the future. In her opinion, her brief, it appears to be, is to see what went wrong with our vaccine rollout and how can we get more vaccines out faster next time.
That was the vibe that I got, yeah.
Yeah. Now, it gets worse because not only was she on the committee that handled the rollout in the first place, she was also a invited guest to Event 201 back in 2019.
Right.
So anyone who doesn't know what Event 201 is, it was an exercise organised by the World Health Organization.
A simulation.
A simulation of a pandemic. And it literally happened in 2019. I think it was October 2019.
Yeah.
So she was there.
Yeah.
And that was also primarily funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation too. That whole event.
She a global young leader?
She is.
No way, really?
Yeah. World Economic Forum young global leader.
Okay.
Oh, it gets better.
Oh no.
Do you know who her husband is?
Fauci?
No. And what I always find interesting with these things too, it might not be husband. I think it is. I think they're married, but
Her
could
name
just
was
be partner.
Ms.
Yeah, okay, so maybe they're not married.
Yeah, or they were married.
Perhaps. but they're still together now. So her partner is a gentleman named Trevor Sutton. Trevor Sutton.
Brett Sutton.
Brett Sutton's brother.
Oh, no way.
Right?
Yeah.
So let me outline these characters. Brett Sutton, as most of you will know, is he the current health minister?
Current, yeah. So, yeah, he won't
Sorry, no,
relinquish
not
that.
health minister. Chief health officer.
Yeah.
The health minister was Martin Foley, who just resigned.
Yeah.
So Brett Sutton was the Victorian chief health officer who gave out all of the pandemic declarations and rules for Victoria during the pandemic.
Yep.
The most lockdown city in the world.
Yep.
Trevor Sutton, his brother and Jane's partner, is the Deputy Australian Statistician leading the Australian Bureau of Statistics.
Oh, what?
Right? So this is what I'm talking about, how inbred the whole thing is.
This is like all the key holders, all the
Yeah.
yeah,
They're
the
all,
gatekeepers.
They're all the gatekeepers. Every single point in this pandemic fuckery, every single post is held by someone who is either married to, sibling to, of the whole establishment.
And what's so weird is that it's not just government agencies, but it's other organisations that, although are independent, are intrinsically tied to government.
Mm-hmm. It gets better.
Oh no! Fauci was at the wedding.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
Double masked.
Yeah.
As far as Brett Sutton goes, Brett Sutton is actually an employee of the Burnett Institute in Melbourne. So you'd remember hearing the name Burnett because a lot of the modelling came from the Burnett Institute.
Yeah. How do we make... I would love to be in those modelling meetings. How do we make that graph way higher? Like, how do we make that spike really, really hard? Oh, we can just punch in whatever number you want. Oh, okay, cool, let's do that.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
He's actually been on loan to the Victorian government to fill in as Chief Health Officer. And interestingly enough, the Burnett Institute, who is their primary funder?
Pfizer.
Nope.
Moderna.
Nope. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Right.
So when everyone talks about like draining the swamp, this is the swamp. This is what they're referring to. So we are literally in a position now where Jane Holton she's one of those people who she's a very successful woman because she's been part of that revolving door of senior bureaucratic positions and then private sector jobs. Like she's held jobs like, I think she was the executive chair of the ANZ Bank in 2016.
Yeah, proper fat cat stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And super well connected. Because that's the other thing that people sort of don't give enough credit for. All these people who hold all these high ranking jobs everywhere, like I'm pretty sure that she was actually on the World Health Organization board at one point as well. If I can pull that up.
Isn't it awesome though that...
Fact check me on that one. Maybe not.
Isn't it awesome that you go... Yeah, that best way out of the bind is just get the bros and sisters in.
Yep.
Hey, hook a brother up.
Yep, because they will all watch you back. And they will all go along with it. And whenever... I mean, pull the pandemic out of it, because it's obviously a very emotionally charged topic with people. Everyone has heard stories in the past about how a brother has done something dastardly and it's been covered up by the sibling. I mean, hey, there's the Paul Dawson case going through the courts at the moment. Chris and Paul Dawson, who are twins, who, funny story about that, Chris Dawson, the brother, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, there's a podcast called the Teacher's Pet Podcast, which was out a few years ago, which is about these two twin brothers who one of them was married to a lady called Lynette Dawson, who has gone missing, presumed murdered. This is, 30 years ago, whatever. And it's super dodgy because essentially they were both school teachers, they were rugby league players, very well liked, and by all accounts, they all used to date schoolgirls.
Yeah, just grooming schoolgirls.
Yeah, and it appears that the allegation put to Paul Dawson, isn't it?
No, Chris is the perpetrator.
Okay, so I don't want to get it wrong. So the Dawson brother, it's been alleged that he murdered his wife to shack up with 16-year-old Joanne Curtis.
Yeah. You got the name. I never would have.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a perfect example of it appears that something nefarious has happened. And what gets me about this case is that what is completely established is that a teacher was banging a 16-year-old girl that was in his care. Why isn't he in prison for that?
Yeah, I know. It's just glossed over.
Yeah, so at the...
I wonder if that was not against the law then.
Surely not.
Dude, I only just learnt as a 36-year-old that we had a white-only immigration
White
policy.
Australia policy.
Yeah, that went till the 60s.
Yeah.
That's not that crazy to think.
Look, I guess it's not that crazy when you look at what else we're talking about right now, too. Yeah. But again, that was a bit of an aside, but just to show that, like, family members will cover for family members when they do the most disgusting things.
But even forgetting the family, were you going to tie in the John Barilaro stuff?
I wasn't, but feel free.
Because this is another example. John Barilaro, it's just come out. So he stood down from Deputy Premier of New South Wales.
Mm-hmm.
And
John Barilaro, also known as Bruz by Friendly Geordie's fame, also known as Pork Barilaro.
So he stepped down. They think because of Friendly Geordies. He said it was for family stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then picked up this sweet ministerial posting in New York City, baby.
Mm-hmm.
It just got kiboshed only yesterday, I think it was.
Okay.
Because an email was found out. They basically planned this all along. He made the role. Back in the day, he created the role. There was there's this lady, and I don't know her name, but she was wildly qualified to do the job.
Yep.
Like the perfect candidate. She got sent an email saying, oh yeah, no, like we're not doing that now because we're going to fill that ministerially. And then that's on an email. The next day, Barilaro steps down, waits for the dust to settle, and goes, yeah, I'll take that sweet job now.
Wow,
who cares about my family? Yeah.
Isn't it like 200,000 a year or something?
I heard 300.
Right.
And you're between New York, Tokyo, Paris.
Yeah.
Like you're not in Mozambique.
No.
You're not posted in Iran.
Yeah.
You are posted in the sweet spots.
And this is the problem. So getting back to the point, there is this revolving door between government, like high-ranking government positions, and the worst.
You can't drain the swamp by adding more swamp.
That's right. And the worst thing about someone like Jane Holton is she's not elected. She's a bureaucrat.
Yeah.
You can't, like, the people can't vote her out. She just goes from plum position to plum position to plum position and just spreads her little web of lies, subterfuge, and corruption through any organisation she goes
especially when what's the word I'm looking for? I'm drawing a complete blank because I didn't have coffee this morning.
Yep.
The motivation for her is purely self-protection. Why would she go and say that she's done a shit job before?
Well, that's not even just the motivation. She has been involved in multiple different projects where the primary funder is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they in the vaccine business.
Yeah.
And this is pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
They've been in the polio vaccine game for a long time. Bill Gates, there was that infamous clip.
2016.
Yeah, 2016.
TED Talk.
Of his there's that talk about how
he planned it all.
he was concerned about world population getting too high, and the quote was like, if we do a really good job on vaccines, we can bring that down by 10 or 15%.
Yeah.
But he's been in the vaccine game for a long time. Vaccines are his bread and butter. He ain't Microsoft anymore. Where he makes his money is vaccine technology and sales. He literally has that other clip of him saying he got a 20x return on investment for his vaccine investments. So when they're like, oh, I donate, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we donated $100 million for these vaccines. Yeah. And you got 20 times that back.
Yeah, I don't think they don't even call it donate. They say pledge, or they're actually very...
They Amber Heard it. Amber Turd.
Yeah.
They pledged the money.
Yeah. So there is a lot of... what I was saying is, though, there is no... It should be a completely independent body, and it should be comprised of people that had nothing to do with the rollout.
That's right.
It makes no sense. Like if an arbitrator should not be arbitrating their own actions.
That's right. But the problem is they do this all the time because they know what the end result is. And the end result, again, is manipulating the Australian people. The Labor federal government is pretending that they are doing the things that they said that they would do before getting elected, and that they would be the most transparent government in the world. And they criticised ScoMo for how corrupt the Liberals were, and they were. I ain't defending them, but they're all corrupt. And this is on brand for Labor, because we are seeing the same things in Queensland at the moment. There's all these inquiries into corruption in the Queensland state government being headed by a guy who is a former high-paying Labor lobbyer. So, and party donor.
Yeah.
So it's the same play. They literally go, oh, you know, we're getting all this criticism about all these corrupt things. Don't worry, we are transparent. We will look into this. And it's being headed up by this completely independent person who believes in us so much that he's donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to us in the past.
Just want to go back to what you said about the unelected bureaucrat. You need to remember all the lockdowns were blamed on health advice that came from unelected officials.
Yeah.
That's what our elected officials are blaming.
And remember, health advice that we've still not seen.
Yeah. This is what we spoke about
July
last week.
2022.
Yeah.
This health advice that was telling everyone to be locked down and mandatory vaccinations and all of the shit, the masking, all of it, we've still not seen any of it. The only thing that we have seen, the least that I can remember, is there was two examples. There was the one example in New South Wales where, what's the New South Wales Chief Health Officer's name? That chick? Can't even remember now. Anyway, there was the series of emails between her and high-ranking government officials. I'm pretty sure that Gladys was involved in it. This is part of the reason why she resigned, where she suggested a full-scale lockdown. Remember in New South Wales, and everyone forgets this stuff, they only locked down the poor places?
Yeah.
Like the eastern suburbs were all free to do whatever they want, and they locked down the poor places for like 100 days straight or whatever it was. Her advice in the emails was, that won't work, we need to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
They went against that.
Yeah.
So that's one example of the health advice. The same thing happened in WA. There was Mark McGowan's Chief Health Officer. There was a series of emails. This all came up when McGowan and Clive Palmer were going at each other for defamation.
Yep.
But this all came out then, and the emails literally said from the Chief Health Officer, the measures you were putting in place will not have the intention, the
desired effect.
Yeah, they will not have the desired effect, so they won't actually work.
Yeah.
And they still pushed on, and they always quote the health advice. They pass the ball of responsibility to unseen, unelected bureaucrats that aren't even saying those things, and we don't get to see any of the advice.
Yeah, how's that? How are we accepting that?
Because we're too distracted by other shit. You know, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard did a pretty good job of distracting everyone. Do you know the amount of stuff on my social media feed during that trial, just all about that?
Yeah.
Like, my friends just go, oh, this is the best thing to watch. It was gross.
Yeah,
I hated anything that I saw. It's just two people with fucking serious mental illness and substance abuse issues. If these people weren't famous and you broadcasted that, every like...
I reckon it happens every day in Southport Local Court. Like, it'll be there. Yeah, you could see these cases over and over and over and over again.
And you know what? If you put a camera in that courtroom and you exposed all their dirty laundry, there'd be all the people's advocate groups railing at you going, this is an abuse and this is disgusting and like these people are mentally ill and you can't do that. But no, when it's two famous people, we all saw it as hugely entertaining when it was just fucking sad.
Yeah, it was really sad.
It was one of the saddest things I've ever seen. But that's the problem, man. We just get distracted by thing after thing after thing. And, I mean, not to further inflame tensions, but the Roe v. Wade decision just happened again. Same, and again, I'm doing zero comment on this situation.
Yeah.
Zero. Because what we've learned, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's too emotional.
Yeah.
But what does matter is that decision completely flooded my Australian-based social media feed and the news stations. So whilst that stuff is going on, Jane Holton gets put in charge of a committee to investigate her own work and essentially come back with a report that's going to say something along the lines of, this is where we failed, we didn't secure vaccines fast enough, if we had secured these vaccines, which were based off the initial strain, and we got everyone vaccinated sooner, then we could have stamped out COVID in Australia before the variants came in. It'll be something along the lines of that.
Or,
and then the next thing rolls around.
Or the results won't be, they'll be confidential.
Well,
the results of the report could be confidential.
If you were writing your own report card, you'd give yourself an A+, and you would scream it from the mountaintops.
I have got a question about and I totally agree with you. That slipped by me. The deeper, like, family ties.
Yeah.
But going to the Roe v. Wade thing, how would you feel as a Democratic voter that is pro-choice? How would you, how do you think they're going to vote in 2024 knowing that the Democrats are so toothless they did nothing about it?
But they don't, that's not what the focus is. This is not a 2024.
But you're going to be sitting there going, okay, no, they said that they were going to protect that. It's 2022, and from under them, because this is a Republican plant, right? It was the two
Supreme Court
justices that were put in by Trump.
Yep.
This is a Trump plan. He had said that he was going to do it. He did it, and he did it right on their noses.
Yep.
I mean, I just want to put myself in the mind of a blue voter, a pro-choice blue voter.
Yep.
What do you do?
There's been zero objective reporting of this, so therefore they vote Democrat. Because this is the problem. This isn't about 2024. This is about the midterms this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there was this, and before all this Roe v. Wade controversy even came up a few months ago, when there was the convenient leak of the potential decision coming, there was, all the pundits were saying there was going to be a massive red swing in the midterm election. So the midterms in America is all about electing basically heads of the states and therefore making up your Congress and...
Yeah.
I mean, like, the president's important, but really it's just
There's
like...
three pillars of their democracy, right?
Yeah, and ironically, when Joe Biden took the White House, they owned all three.
Yeah.
And what is completely... again, how they're manipulating their own voters again is they are trying to... Because in America, the game's a little bit different when it comes to voting. And this is something that I've only really just become aware of, where because it's not mandatory to vote in America, it is all about, instead of trying to win voters from the other side, it is about firing your base up with their issues to just convince them to go out and vote for you.
Yeah.
And what is so misleading is that the Democrats are spinning this like it's these evil Republicans trying to take away women's rights. And what is not being reported at all is that the Democrats held all three seats of power in America, and if they wanted to codify Roe v. Wade into law forever, they could have done it.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
And they knew this stuff was coming.
And that's what I'm saying. That's why surely a blue voter knows that.
I don't think...
Forget the extremes. Forget the 1% extremes. I'm not talking about them.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm talking about the people that said, no, like, I believe in pro-choice, and that's why I voted that way. And now, whilst they are in power, this was and I know they don't have the power to stop it, halt it, or do whatever, but like you said, they did have the opportunity in the past, a few times in the past, to codify it, and they didn't. Surely you're sitting there going, wait a minute, like, they don't want it. Because it looks to me like the Democrats, they want to overturn that.
But I don't think that... I'm not talking about the extremes. I'm talking about the people who win elections in Australia, the disinterested majority. The majority of Australians don't care about politics, and I think America is similar. You'll have left-leaning and right-leaning people in America who aren't paying attention to every single hot-button issue. They might be going to their favoured news sources for their politically slanted version of the news, and in which case, if you're a traditional Democratic voter, you'll probably be switching on CNN, and CNN will not mention at all the fact that the Democrats had the power to actually codify this into law. All they'll be talking about is these evil Republicans trying to take away women's rights.
I agree with you, but any rational person will say, how did they get that done under Democratic leadership?
And how's rationality going for you the last 2
No,
years?
a large part, I would agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about the centre left. The centre left, surely they are. I just think it's going to. If I had to guess, because of this, I have a feeling we might have the lowest voter count, or America might have the lowest voter count ever. And as a silent protest, hey,
That's right.
I don't believe in any of these guys.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
that was
could
going to be
happen.
my thought. It would be, you wouldn't see Democrat voters going and voting for Republicans. You would see them not showing up to the polls at all. And so then if their state flips and all their friends go, did you vote Republican? No, I didn't vote for Republicans. No way. I wouldn't vote for Republicans. You crazy?
Yeah.
They just didn't vote.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you'll see that.
Which still gives a big swing to the Republicans.
It does, because their voter base is going to be motivated to go and vote their people in. So, yeah, look, it'll be interesting.
And
but that's what this is all.
Did you see that girl that was really offended that right after the decision came out, Biden sent out a group text to everyone asking for $15 to help the political juggernaut to try and help.
Yeah, just a grift.
It's a grift,
Yeah.
dude.
And it all is. Like, we're not saying it's the Democrats, it's the Republicans too. Trump was one of the biggest grifters there is. Like, that's why most of these people are in these jobs. But it is a grift. You even heard there was that infamous statement from, who's the Republican senator with the eye patch?
Oh, yeah. I'm not very good with names.
Is it Dan someone?
Dan Crenshaw.
Dan Crenshaw. And he was trying to defend, like, this was when there was all that, there was a lot of hoopla out about members of Congress and whether or not they should be allowed to invest in stocks.
Yeah.
Because Nancy Pelosi, greatest stock trader of all time. Booyah, Nancy. We should put a link to that in the show notes. Bullshit money with Nancy Pelosi. Oh, batshit money.
Batshit money. I'll rub my jewelry in your face. You'll love it.
Carl Dunnigan, shout out to Carl Dunnigan. But there was all that hoopla months ago, which again nothing's happened with, about whether or not Congress people should be allowed to invest in the companies that they directly affect their stock values. And Crenshaw literally comes out and goes, well, if we're not able to better ourselves, then why would we even do this job?
Yeah.
It's public service, bro. But that's the attitude of these people. And it's not just Americans. It's the same attitude in Australia. And we are seeing that with the decisions made with our politicians. Clearly, there are other motivations other than just doing service for the public good in the decisions that they are making.
Humankind, the individual, will be corrupted if they are in a position to be corrupt.
Yes.
So, I was going to bring this up in our election, or I think it was post-election show. Mm-hmm. I think there's a real opportunity now with the polarisation, and I'm talking about Australia now. Mm-hmm. Why don't we really rethink how we do things here? And why wouldn't we move to a referendum-based democracy?
Yeah, I would love that. I think that would be the way to go. I don't see it happening because the powers that be will do everything they can to make sure it doesn't.
But if you had, all you need is a charismatic. See, I don't think we've got, besides Clive Palmer. Clive Palmer, I would say, was probably in recent Australian political history was the only really charismatic character.
K. Rudd was charismatic.
K. Rudd was. Yeah, agreed. K. Rudd was. Yeah, he had a great campaign.
When he wasn't swearing his head off at people.
In Mandarin.
Yeah.
But if you had another one of those, a younger person, I think that is more aligned with youth culture, who's not, maybe someone who's already minted that doesn't need any money from, like a Trump-esque
a young
type.
Trump. You want like a Logan Paul.
You want like a
like
Logan
someone
Paul.
who's made their own money, is rich, knows how to charm people, and would literally just be doing it. They're like, I got enough money for generations to come.
Yeah.
I don't need that. I really care about this country and I want to see it move in the right direction.
As long as you're on referendum base.
Yeah.
Or if you had a good policy, like, Andrew Yang, I suppose, was an example of that in America, where he made his own money and he had a really, really out there thing. And I'm not sleeping on him either. I think he could come back later on down the track. He's putting some work in.
For sure.
But I think in Australia, if you just went and said, hey, I don't have the answers, but you guys do, right? We can have referenda here. We have done it before. Let's just have more.
We did it with gay marriage. Like, why can't we do it with more things?
Yeah.
If we can do it with that, why can't we do it with other things?
Yeah. So that is something that I think I'm hopeful for the future. Surely there's people thinking that.
Yeah.
Surely there's people thinking that
maybe
we could do better and the system would be better. Because another thing I've noticed too, and I'd love your comments on this. I've never, and look, I know Murdoch is liberal. But has everyone noticed how much airtime the Libs get now, even though they're not in power? We heard nothing. In the last 4 years, we've heard nothing from Albo or the Labor Party. And I remember... Federally.
We've heard nothing but from Labor state leaders.
That's true. But I remember in the past, like, nothing would get through without this massive argument. You'd hear both sides. But the last 4 years, and look, COVID may have been it. I'm trying to think. But even before that, there was no opposition. And maybe there was opposition, it just wasn't shown to us. But surely the system sucks. We realise the system sucks. Why don't we make a better one?
Well, so this is something that I've become really reflective on since becoming a dad. Because you're right, the system does suck. And we've spoken about with many different hot button issues. One of the things that gets completely lost in the mess is all of the issues start way earlier on than when we try to fix them.
For sure.
Okay. And I think about this with kids. And when you talk, like, this is honestly something that, and my wife will hate me for saying this, this is something I grapple with a lot with my children. Because when you look at the traditional upbringing of a child in Australia, for example, their entire existence early on is manipulated to get a better result out of them. And let me give you an example. Santa Claus. Like, from the time the child is old enough to understand that they like things, we introduce a mythological figure that we say can see you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. We literally put this person in the sky, this made-up person, which is designed to manipulate kids into giving us the behaviour that we want them to do. And there's some positives around that, because obviously if you're trying to encourage good behaviours, that is a good thing. But it is a manipulation nonetheless. It's exactly the same as a god to a religious person. Like, it's literally an all-seeing person who it's designed to manipulate you into giving you a certain outcome.
Sure.
But then the other problem with the whole Santa and Christmas thing is it is literally becomes an exchange. I exchange good behaviour for things.
Toys, yeah.
Right? So then we indoctrinate kids into this mentality of, if I do what I'm told, I'll get stuff.
Yeah, interesting.
And then that consumerism carries on with them throughout life. And then that's why, I mean, one of the things that really staggered me out of the pandemic was when they would literally go in and they would do all these studies or like polls on how much savings people had in the bank and what people were spending their money on and all that sort of stuff. And it was because I'm not someone who's ever, like since I got a real job anyway, I've never been broke. But I know what it's like to be broke, because I have been broke before that. But it staggers me how widespread the issue is of people living paycheck to paycheck. But then those same people, and this is a generalization, not everyone, this isn't the case for everyone, but everyone knows someone who's always got no money but always has new things. And it's like, I wonder how much of that, like, drive towards consumerism all goes all the way back to when we tell kids, hey, if you be good, Santa's going to bring you some nice stuff.
It definitely does, but I actually have a solution for this. And it is a business idea of mine that I've got this project I'm working on. Once that's up and running, that's the next one. And it derives to education for children, specifically around finance. Because I think I've never thought of it like the way you've just illustrated, but you're exactly right. There is an exchange of be good, get stuff.
Yep.
It's that consumerism is built into us,
Yep.
which we should have. We are consumers because we're in a capitalist world.
Yeah.
Capitalism, to a large degree, has a lot of good things. We do live in the safest, most prosperous times of history.
Yep.
But there are the downsides of it.
Yeah.
There are pitfalls. Yeah, so it's about trying to fill in those pitfalls, I suppose.
Yeah, and like I see it with, watching TV shows with Nate, for example. Like a lot of these shows are designed in a way which, there might be, like Bluey, for example, is like a 7-minute long show. And you could say that's a good thing because, they're only going to watch one episode and it's 7 minutes. That's usually not the case. Usually they'll watch 1, 2, 3 episodes. So it's short, sharp, keeps their attention. But between every show, there's an ad break. And then they show all the toys that you can go and buy.
Yeah,
and that drives the Pester Power type thing. And then what inevitably happens is mum and dad go, oh, well, Christmas is a few months away. If you're good, Santa might give you that. And like, it's just, I wonder how much of that mentality is just created in those formative years. Like, we know that's the most important time. Like, the single digit ages up until sort of 6, 7 years old, a lot of stuff that's ingrained in you at that point in your life carries on with you forever.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, like, it's a trade-off because at the same time you also go, look, if I've got, let's talk religion. I've never been a religious person. And one of the things that, like, all growing up, I've always had a chip on my shoulder about being told what to do. Always have. Never liked it. And I wonder if some of my negative behaviours that I've exhibited in the past come from that attitude. And maybe I would have benefited from more of a Christian upbringing because really...
Or religious, any of the
or
religious.
Any religious,
yeah.
but like, because I'm only saying Christian because I know Christian values more closely than other religions. But if you look at the 10 Commandments, if you did those things and you lived that way, you'd probably have a fairly good life and you'd be a good person to people around you. So it is that trade-off of like, pick your poison.
That's why I think, we've had this argument before, that's why I think you have to have religion. And for the same reasons that you spoke about the programming of consumerism, religion gives you a programming of how to become a good person.
Yeah,
and
also...
And that's all religions.
Yeah.
All the religions fundamentally are trying to make, like, say, do this, be nice, help out, look after, all this really good messaging.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just went completely pragmatic and said, no, science is the key and forget religion, well, science doesn't tell you to be nice to you.
No, and the problem is that, like, at the moment, science tells you to rat your neighbour out because they're a diseased scumbag. And I guess, with the absence of a godhead to worship, what do we worship these days? We worship the science, we worship money, we worship celebrities.
Yeah.
And how's that going for us?
Yeah. No, totally.
So look, it is really tricky because, like, I grapple with it all the time.
I don't know how we got to here.
I don't know how we got here either.
Was that through indoctrination and voting and coming, like, trying to build a better society. But the referenda thing, like, Switzerland's massive on referenda. They've had like 60 referendum in like the last 10 years or something. It's huge. Now, their society is very different to ours. But we also need to remember that we are extremely young. We're a very young country. Actually, the political party that I'd like to see is republic. Become a republic and then write all the new stuff. Celebrate the day that we become a republic. So get rid of Australia Day. Talk about the day that we federated. Move to a referenda-based political system would be a great opportunity for us to, like... It almost ties into what you were saying before about your sort of anti-globalisation financial movement. That is like a symbolic step for us to say, okay, we're independent. And we need to do what's best for us.
It's a step further away from that. Like, and that appears to be what is happening. And whether the whole COVID pandemic was designed and implemented in a way that would shift us towards globalization, or whether it happened and then globalization has found a way to take advantage of that around it, it did move us to being a more globalized state, and we're now seeing the pitfalls of that. And regardless of my life as a scam rant from last week about all the real reasons why all these things are happening, it shows you the pitfalls of a globalist society when things go wrong. Because it's great when everything's cooking, but, you know, whether it's natural disasters, we're in the age of pandemics apparently, political turmoil, wars, whatever the case may be, we used to talk about this in sales all the time, where you would try to sort of stick to a bit of a plan and you're trying to eliminate variables on your way through the sales process, because the more variables, the more things that can go wrong. Well, when a globalist society with every single country inextricably linked together, there's a lot of cogs in that wheel that can break and go wrong and tear the whole thing down.
Yeah.
And what you're proposing, I think, is fantastic. And it's something that people forget about the United States of America too.
Yeah.
Like, there's been all this talk about, it's been an attack on our democracy, They're not a democracy. They are a republic.
Yeah.
They're individual states. And that's what the Roe v. Wade decision was really about, was kicking the decision on that right back to the states.
Yeah.
Because they are separate states which are united into one larger country. And I would like to see the same thing in Australia. I mean, it's not like they haven't acted like they're individual countries during the pandemic. Every state's had different rules, different regulations, different times of lockdowns. You see it in all these other professions, like teaching, we talk about all the time. If you're accredited as a teacher in Queensland, you need to get re-accredited in New South Wales before you can start working there.
Yeah.
Even though you're teaching a national curriculum, they're separate. So why can't we have a further separation of some of these things, but keep
But the separation is from the Crown, which should have nothing to do... Who cares? Britain... couldn't Brexit have Brexited here too? Do we want to be... we miss out on the Commonwealth Games. That's the only thing you're going to feel. You're going to take the Queen off your coin. Yeah.
That's literally it. And that's the perfect point. I remember saying that when Brexit happened. If Britain can leave, why can't we?
Yeah.
You know, what is the point? I mean, really, our big brother at the moment is America. We are more Americanized.
No, our big brother is China. So, on paper, our big brother is America. But we don't trade that much with them.
Yeah,
therefore, we don't.
Do trade a lot more with China.
We treat them as our big brother in terms of culture. We look to them for culture.
Yeah.
But our real big brother is China. We do more. We have more link. We're closer linked to China than we are to America.
Yeah, that's true.
And no one sees it. But if you think all our trade, all our wealth, it all comes from China.
All our farms are owned by Chinese investors.
Yeah. So and by that rationale, we can stand on our own 2 feet.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's now, again, glass half full guy. Times only get better. Okay, the more. Well, we don't know what when the aliens came or whatever and what they did to human civilization, but we know that en masse, year on year, the world is a better place, despite what you hear on the radio.
Yeah, for sure.
Radio, the wireless. Besides what you see on TV, the world is getting better. We're getting smarter. We're getting more fruitful. We're getting better. Now, we can always do better, but I hope for a time where we can have some real change here in Australia.
Yeah.
Be proud to be Australian again.
Yeah.
And have a collection of people all sort of aiming for a common goal to make us better off. I think Australia as a republic, new flag, new money, new laws, new days to celebrate, and an actual unity of the people, like a unification of the people that are here. I think that would be really good.
Completely agree with you, and I think that as a parent, and as shouting out to any of the other parents out there, it's our responsibility to help usher these things in, because this is a long game. The biggest problem that we've got in Australia, young country with 3-year federal political cycles. So everything's all about short-term politics. We've always spoken about this. It's short-term decision-making. All it's designed to do is get them re-elected next time around. So if you actually care about this country and the country that we are going to leave behind to our children, well, it really comes down to the education we give our kids from an early age. And this is something that I'm so hyper-mindful of, and I'm going to make mistakes. And I know that, but I'm still going to try things. And there are things that I want to pass on to my children and hopefully set them up to have the right mentality when they're of an age where they can make a difference. I mean, like, I've been thinking about all this stuff because, like, Nate went to he got invited to a birthday party from one of his daycare friends for last weekend before, and had a great time. And that was cool for us because this is the first time that we've made friends with people through our children.
Sure.
Right? But they go to this party and it's at this like indoor play center, and they've got all the goodies. Like they've got cupcakes, sugar central. And I even look at that and like Nate doesn't eat a lot of sugar. He's high energy enough. Yeah. If you put sugar into him, it's like pouring ethanol on something and then flicking a match at it. And he just goes hard. And I see, when we were kids, like that was when the whole talk about ADD first came in. And you go, the kids don't have ADD. We just have we used to live by the food pyramid, which said you had to eat fucking 26 serves of carbs every day. We're just jacked up on shit food, right? And I look at kids now, I look at Nate and I go, remember that video I sent you guys like a year ago of Nate watching The Simpsons licking an Oreo? And just how retarded he got?
Yeah.
Like, he was literally just licking the side of it. And he probably had...
He was possessed.
Yeah, he was a demon child.
Yeah.
So he doesn't eat much sugar. And I just go, well, what do we do with kids? How do we indoctrinate kids? Well, we've got all these special events during the year. We've got their birthday, we've got Easter, we've got Christmas. And what do we do on these special days? We eat shit food. So then that shit food becomes a reward system. Oh, if you go to the doctors and you're a big good boy, we'll give you a lolly. Like, we reward our kids with things that we know down the track are going to be bad for them. Like, do we have to get out of that mentality?
So I watched a YouTube video from a page called Yes Theory. Huge channel. And they go and travel around the world and they learn things. And they went to the blue belt. Have you heard of the blue belts? Where the people live the longest?
The blue zones.
Blue zones. So they went to, I think it was Sardinia. And they're trying to identify what it is that makes these people... Like, they have more centenarians than just about anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And one of the big things is a collection of people around locally sourced foods. Now, they drink piss every day.
Yeah.
But they have the keys for the houses are in the doors.
Right.
So that anyone can get in at any time.
Yep.
But they'll catch up as a community, like daily, weekly.
Yeah.
And all their food is from their land, from around them. Yep. They all cook together. Mm-hmm. And that's very common across all the blue zones.
Yeah.
Is that
sense of community,
connection,
yep.
Good food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
good food shared with friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I feel like especially in Western society, that is something we're moving further and further away from. And the pandemic moved us even further away because everyone got used to staying at home all the time, speaking to each other through screens.
Yeah. Yeah, the metaverse ain't the answer.
Yeah, and I mean, again, having kids shows you how isolating it can be. Like, I think about our parents. Our parents are immigrants. They came here, Dad could barely speak English, They
had no money.
They had no money, no family backup. Like, I'm so fortunate that our parents are close by to us because they take care of Nate all the time.
Yeah.
Amanda's parents are close by. They take care of Nate all the time. The amount of help that we've received from them is 1,000,000 times more than what our parents had. And I know how hard it is to have kids. I mean, like the old saying used to be, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
And we talk about all the time, like how good it would be because, one of the dramas, like when you get sick, for example, you can't sleep because your kids are sick too. Imagine if you lived in a community where you were sick, your kids were sick, and someone came along and said, hey, I'll take care of the children tonight. You go and have a good night's rest. How much faster would you recover?
Yeah, or dinner comes around.
That's right. And that is one of the nice things, like when we had kids, is we do have a group of friends who understand it. They have brought meals over it. Like, that sort of stuff's really nice.
My neighbour in my unit complex doesn't even say hi. Like, won't even make eye contact.
Yeah, well...
That's the difference.
That's right. I mean, since we moved into our house like 4 years ago, the neighbour across the road, who's an old lady, she would refuse to speak to us. And then just the other day, her son came over and knocked on the front door thinking that I was the person next door to tell us that she's unfortunately unable to take care of herself anymore and has to be put in a home. And it's like, well, maybe if she was more connected with her community, she wouldn't have to be. She would have people going over there all the time to help out, or, it's sad, and it's
not conducive to a good long life.
That's right. I mean, I look at what you've done. you've gotten out of the system, the dealership world. You've gone into business for yourself, and now you've gone into business with your mates that you want to spend your time with.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, are you not having more fun every day now than you were? More. Yeah. And we all know about the negative effects of stress on people's lives. If you're less stressed, because even if you're having a shit time or something bad happens in the business, if you're surrounded with your mates talking shit, it feels way better than if you're having the same experience in some corporate dinosaur with some idiot upstairs sending you an email at 12 o'clock at night going, oh, you fucked this thing up.
And the stress doesn't show on any report.
Yeah.
So there's no value associated with your level of stress that's put into it.
Yeah. So, look, I think this is a really good conversation we've been having for the first episode of the VK Bros. Because the lesson out of this, for all of us, what can we do to be the change you want to see in the world? It's that saying, right?
Yeah.
What can we do to create the world that we really want to live in? Let's forget all this surface level bullshit, this polarization we see on social media and the news every single day. Forget that stuff. That's fake. It's not real.
Yeah. Go give someone a hug.
Go give someone a hug. Reach out to someone. Eat good food. Teach your kids good values, not just break all these generational cycles that we've become indoctrinated into. Break those cycles. You know, you don't have to reward your kid with lollies every single time, which is then going to have negative health consequences down the track. Yeah. You guys know what to do.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it. Thanks very much for joining us, guys, and we'll see you on next week's episode of the VK Bros, powered by Auto Bros.
Bye.
Cheers.